Okay guys, so now we are in the visual editor, and here we can see our grid wizard, which allows us to select different presets for our design, which is super handy, but we don't really need all of this now. Also, it allows us to clone existing layouts. So if we can make a layout on our page, we can also clone that to other pages. We can also import and export layouts, which is super handy, but for now we're just going to use a empty grid. Okay, so what you see in front of you here is what we call a wrapper, and here is where all our content for our site is going to go. Here is where our layout is going to be happening, and it's pretty simple. We literally just click and drag on this canvas, and at the bottom a option panel appears that allows you to select or allows you to choose what your block will do. So we've just laid out a block, and I'm now going to choose this as a content block, and as you can see, the option panel changes again and gives us sub tabs or options for that particular block, which makes it super great so we can customize stuff. Here I'm just going to add a name for this block, so I'm going to call it "This is a content block." And as you can see now, the name of it changes here. Each block comes with their own set of options, so it's important that you have a look through all the options, all the sub tabs, and have a look and see what they have and what they don't have and how you're able to customize it. You can of course drop this options panel down. You can go up and down by using this little arrow key here, so it gives us enough room for us to, you know, use the canvas and make use of the space that we have. You can delete blocks if you need to. You could change the type of block you had. So if you had a content block before and you changed your mind and you're like, I want a custom code block instead, you can easily do that here as well. So let's talk a little bit more about the wrappers. Let me just drop this down. You can add as many wrappers as you want by clicking this button up here, and this allows you to add a wrapper at the top. And if you click this button down here, this allows you to add a wrapper to the bottom. You can move these wrappers wherever you want them to go. You can also delete wrappers. They also come with their own options as well, which is pretty cool. So here we have a grid option. We can mirror other wrappers, we can copy other wrappers, which is super great. And we also have like a responsive section for each wrapper, so we can choose how it's going to act at on different devices. We can choose how wide this is going to be, so I can have this at a certain amount of columns and make it smaller. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this. I would say just keep to one setup, and in this project we're going to be keeping to one setup anyway, just so then everything kind of works well. So let's have a look as well. What else can you do? You can resize your wrappers, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter how you resize them on the page, because it's only going to be as big as the content that lies in it. And of course, if you add any extra padding or anything else as well, it will be that size. So you can't just have a really long wrapper and one tiny block in the top of it. It kind of needs to be the size of its content. So now let's have a look at the menu items. As you can see here in the top left hand corner, we have this box highlighted, and this tells us that we are in the grid mode. The other box tells us that that is the design mode, and that's where all your styling and everything happens. Next we have the layout selector, and this allows us to select which page we want to create a new layout or look for. You can also, right now we're editing the blog index. As you can see, it says we're currently editing, but you can also make layouts which could be shared across multiple different pages, but we're not going to be using that for now because we're only really making a one-page sign up, so that's all kind of irrelevant for right now. So now let's have a look at our menu bar. Here we have the admin toolbar that allows us to get a quick look into other areas of our WordPress site. Here we have our tools bar that brings us the grid wizard. Again, if we ever need to go back and reset our layout because we're so super unhappy about it. As you can see here, we've reset the layout, but the wrappers are still there. So I'm just going to delete all of these wrappers. Delete, delete, delete. Okay, and we also have our cache mode, which we can press and clear the cache easily, and we have a quick little tour which allows us again to have a look through the site, and it explains certain parts of the grid modes to you. Super cool, right? Okay, so next in our menu is snapshots, and this snapshots is basically like a version control, so we can be able to save snapshots, delete snapshots, rename snapshots, and snapshots are just little reminders of the stuff that we've already done. So I'm going to make my own snapshot here, and I'm going to call it this. Let's press save. And now if I ever want to roll back to where I was, I can literally just press this button on the right hand side. That allows me to roll back to this current layout. So that's it for really explaining what the grid mode is all about. Let's start by adding our blocks, but first let me have a look at the mock-up. As you can see, we have our logo, we've got our menu bar, and we have our social media icons. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to transfer all of this information that we have in our mock-up into Headway. So let's start by going back into Headway and adding some of these blocks. Okay, so now we're in Headway, and one of the first things I want to talk about is the setup menu, which is what I didn't explain to you about here, which is on the bottom left hand corner, and this allows us to lay out how wide our website is going to be. So I've got a column count here of 12, 67 for my column width, and 36 for my gutter width, and this gives me a grid which is 1200 pixels wide, and this is exactly what we need for our design. If we have a look up at the mock-up, you will see here that it's 1200 pixels wide, so we need to make sure we have that for the grid as well. So first of all, I'm gonna click and drag out a header block, and the header block is basically like a logo, or it could be a banner if you wanted it to be, and I'm gonna choose the image for the logo. Here I've already uploaded it to my media library. As you can see, it's a PNG. I'm going to press to use image, and as you can see, the image here is it's massive, so we need to make sure that we uncheck automatically resize header image, and I'm just going to scale this block down a little bit so it's not taking up more space than it needs to. Let me just double check on how wide the image is. Let's see. If I click on here, it tells me it's 164 pixels wide, and this is 170 pixels wide, so it should fit in this block. So let me call this block logo, and there we have it. That's all we need to do now. Now we need to add a navigation and a social media block. So again, click and drag, and we're going to select the social from here, and our options panel gives us the options that we need. We're going to be using a custom icon, and we're going to center, make it horizontal. I'm not quite sure about the spacing, so I'm going to go back to our mock-up, and I'm just going to have a look and see how much spacing there is between the elements. So I'm just going to get a random shape tool here, zoom in, let's get a rectangle. So between these two, it's about 6 pixels wide, so I'm going to put 6 pixels in there. Now I'm going to add my social media icons. Let's add a couple here. Twitter and LinkedIn, and here we can add our title tags and our alt tags. I'm going to do this really quickly so then you don't have to sit down and watch me do them all. Okay, so now that's all done, what I want to do is name this block. So I'm going to call this social. In fact, no, I'm going to call this header social because it's in the header wrapper, and I think we're going to be adding a few more social icons a little bit later, so I don't want to get these mixed up. So I'm going to call this header, and I'm also going to make sure that the wrapper is called header as well. So let me just double check. Yes, header. Okay, so now we want to add a navigation bar, so I'm going to click and drag again and add a navigation. Let me just resize this block. It's important that they're kind of resized and look tidy. So in the search function, we don't need anything here. On the home link, we're going to press hide home link, and the orientation is going to be right, sorry. And drop downs, don't have to worry about that. Responsiveness, don't have to worry about that for now. And we're going to name this as well. So you can right click on the block and name it, or you could just go into the options here and name it what you want as well. So I'm going to call it header navigation. Okay, so let's press save. And let me just resize this. I know we don't have to resize it, but I kind of like everything quite tidy. And as you can see now, we've got our navigation, we've got our logo, and if I hover over the buttons, you can see my tags are popping up. So everything is there. But if we have a look at the actual mock-up, you would see, let me just put this at 100% so we can see. You can see that there's like a black bar that runs from left to right all the way across the top of the screen, and the content sort of lies in the middle. So right now this isn't happening. I'm going to right click on the wrapper, and I'm going to change this wrapper to fluid. And what this does now is it allows you to have that bar that stretches from left to right, and the content is still in the middle. So let's press save, and let's have a look at the site so you can see what I mean. See, so it's stretched from left to right. So this is what we call a fluid wrapper. You can also have a fluid grid as well. So let me change this to fluid grid so you can see what this looks like. You can see the nav and everything is basically extended to the edges of the screen. So let's refresh. This is what we don't want. We want our content to be seated in the middle. So if you want your content to be seated in the middle, but you have other background stuff going on, then have a fixed grid and a fluid wrapper. So let's press save. And let's have a look. So that's how we want it to be right now. Okay, so I'm going to now save this as a snapshot, and I'm going to call this layout menu and press save. Now your snapshots do automatically save. You do have an option to save your snapshots if you need to, and you will see that later on. So now let's go into the design mode and start working on the overall look and feel of the site. Okay, so here we are in the design mode, and here is where all the magic happens. Here is where we add all our fancy colors and our fancy backgrounds and stuff like that. So one of the first things I want to do is I'm going to make sure that the background of this site is white, because as you can see, we've got the white wrapper, but we've got this grayish kind of background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to here. Here is where all the CSS happens. So I'm going to click structure. I'm going to click body, and it gives us an option down here to choose what CSS styling we want to add. So I'm going to add a background color. I'm going to use a color picker to select white. So now we've got a white background, and it all happens real time, which is really good, so we can see our changes straight away. So if we have a look at the wrapper, you'll see like there is this kind of shadow effect here. Now this is a default styling for Headway, so we can get rid of some of this default styling by clicking on the wrapper. And if there's a button up, here that says styles. We can click on styles, and here it says box shadow, and we can just delete these settings for the box shadow. And it also has settings for margins, so you can see there's like a gap between the top of this between this wrapper and the actual top of the screen, so we can get rid of these as well. So it has like a with each Headway install, they have like some kind of set styles which you can obviously go through and kind of deselect for either that particular wrapper or for all wrappers. So right now I've just done it for every single wrapper that I've created. Okay, so let's press save. I'm a save freak, by the way. I'm always saving stuff. So now the first thing we want to notice about this background is that we need it to be a darker color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the wrapper. Oops, it's taking me elsewhere. Right click on the wrapper and click edit this instance. I'm going to change the background color of this wrapper to a black for now. I know it's transparent, but we're going to keep it black. And for the menu, you can see like there's these white bars. Again, this is the default styling that Headway does. So I'm going to right click on the header navigation, and instead of going to edit this instance, I'm going to edit regular element, which means I'm going to edit every single menu bar that appears in my layout to not have this border, which seems to be the default. So I'm going to get rid of all of that styling here, which is in the styles tab. Let's go back to the navigator. Okay, we got our social media buttons. So let's see here. Let's go back to the mock-up. Okay, so let's start to work on the actual menu bar here. We've got features, screenshots, and get the app. And I just want to have a look and see what size that font is. 17.14, it's white. I just want to also get the color here. I'm going to stick this. That's the color of this kind of yellowy orange. Get the app. Okay, so I want to take note of that. So feature, screenshot, get the app. So let's now go into Headway. And we're going to start dealing with the menu. So I'm going to go to admin, menus. Here we go. And I'm going to create a new menu. This is a different menu from a different tutorial. So I'm going to remove these. Remove. Let's go to links. And the first one is called features. And I'm going to add a hashtag, and I'm going to put features in there. So let's add that to menu. The next one is screenshots, and I'm going to do a hashtag screenshots. And the last one is get the app. Get the app. So hashtag get the app with no spaces. Next, I want to add custom CSS to this, because as you can see, the menu color is different from all the rest of the menu colors. So what I want to do is head over to my screen options in the top right hand corner, select CSS classes, and a CSS box will pop up here. I'm going to type in get the app as my CSS class, and press create menu. And as soon as I create menu, it gives us a setting here or a location where we can use this menu. So I'm going to choose header navigation here and press save menu. And I'm going to go and visit the site. Now we have our menus seated nicely. So let's go back to the blog index. I'm going to press save here, and I'm going to refresh this so then we can have our proper menu pop up here. There we go. Okay, so now let's add some CSS styling to this menu item. I'm going to use the font Lato, because I've got no idea what font they actually used for this. It doesn't give me any doesn't tell me exactly what font, so I'm going to use Lato for this. I'm going to go to Global Styling, Text, and I'm going to choose takes a little while. I'm going to choose Lato from the menu here. There we go. I'm going to change the colour of the menu item, so I'm going to right click on the menu item, edit this instance. I'm going to change the colour to white. And as you can see, it's uppercase. We can keep it uppercase if we want, but it's lowercase here. So I'm going to go to text alignment. Oops, no I'm not. I'm going to go to capitalization and keep that as normal. I'm going to go to font size and change that to 17. Okay, so now we're going to add a bit of custom CSS to the Get the App section, so then we have that as the right colour. So I'm going to just copy and paste this, and we're going to open up the CSS editor, and we do that easily by just clicking this button here, and I'm going to add in a comment. So I'm going to add an asterisk, oops, no, I'm going to add / then an asterisk, and I'm going to add navigation, or actually I'm going to call it header because we're in the header wrapper. There's a little comment there. Underneath there I'm going to put in another comment, navigation, and what did we use as our class? Was it Get the App? Change the colour of it to this one. I'm going to add a Get the App. Let's press save and let's refresh. Let me just double check that oh, I know why. It's because I have to make sure that it's got an important tag on there. There we go. So now it's changed. Let's press save. And as you can see, we now have Get the App and our menu items. The menu items look a bit too far to the left, so I'm going to move these over a little bit. I'm going to go to Open Block Options, and I'm going to make sure that it's centered left. There we go. Let's press save. Okay, so the logo looks a little bit off from here, so I'm going to make sure that I select the logo, edit this instance. I'm going to give it a little bit of margin on the top, so I'm going to choose 15 pixels about, and that's roughly lined up, I guess. Let's try 12 pixels. So that's about right. So let's press save. Let's look at this in the browser properly. And now everything seems to be aligned up pretty easily. Now this menu bar is quite small compared to this one, so we're going to have to try to get rid of some of this padding that the wrapper has. So I'm going to edit this instance again over the wrapper. I'm going to take out the padding by pressing customize here, and you can see it starts to get smaller. So really the wrapper is only taking up all the space that it needs without any extra padding or anything like that. Let's drop this down. So there we have it. We can press save. Let's refresh. And there we have it. Okay, so now we've created our site, or we've created the navigation. What I want to do is just have a look and see what this navigation looks like when it's on a mobile or when it's on a tablet. So let's click this button here to resize. And as you can see, the logo gets smaller, the navigation stays the same, the social media icons is doing something quite funny over here. If we get smaller and smaller, you could see the blocks start to act funny. So we can change this setting within Headway really easily. If we go into the grid mode, sorry, I keep sniffing through the recording, I'm not actually well at the moment, so I apologise for the horrible sniffing and stuff like that, it's driving me crazy. But anyway, so the grid mode, what you do is you head over to setup, responsive grid, make sure that you have enable responsive grid checked. Okay, and we're going to right click on the wrapper, go to open wrapper options, and we're going to go to the responsive setting. And what we're going to do is we're going to stretch these blocks when it gets to tablet. So we want these blocks to have its own line when it gets to tablet. So I'm going to go to 768, which is a popular tablet portrait, and we're going to select stretch blocks for mobile, and we're also going to attempt to center the items as well. So let's press save and refresh it here, and now that looks so much better, so much cleaner, so much nicer. And there, already we have a cute responsive header. So in the next tutorial we're going to be going over making this background transparent and adding the other section of the website, which would be this big screen section here, and this part is going to be quite interesting, so make sure you stay tuned and I'll see you on the other side. Bye.